Edgar Cayce. Symbols and the Self. By Violet Shelley. Part 1. Symbols. Signposts to Insight. Symbols and the Self. Contents. Symbols. Signposts to Insight. Symbols as key. Aura charts as records. Life seals as reminders. The symbol-minded self. Introduction. Out of the 14,000 readings, a few dealt specifically with symbology. These were the aura chart readings. These readings were instructions for the drawing of pictures and symbols which suggest various past lives. They appealed to the subconscious minds for those people the readings were given for and aid in their development. The Life Seal readings. These readings are not as detailed and complex as the aura chart readings but describe the individual symbols and were meant to lift the aspirations of the conscious mind as well as to impress, subliminally, the subconscious mind. These two sets of readings, Aura Chart and Life Seal, affirms that the soul is eternal. These readings were a part of the life readings that dealt with planetary sojourns and past lives. So all these three sets of readings, Aura Chart, Life Seal, Life Readings, deals with the concepts of creation, separation, free will, rebirth and evolution. A study of the undermeanings of graphic symbols and numbers and astrological symbols reveals the same concepts. There are many kinds and many branches of symbolism, yet there is consistency in their undermeanings. Symbols and the Self is an introduction to a language that is as old as man, a language that both conceals and reveals the secret of the self and its search for its source, God. Chapter 1. Symbols. Signposts to Insights. Advertisers and educators in the 20th century have been pleased to discover that one picture is worth 1,000 words, and texts and treatises on visual aids have used 1,000,000 words to prove it. Quietly and wordlessly, the proof of the cliché has existed for eons in the symbols that abound in all of the religions and cultures of the world, from the tombs of the pharaohs to the teepees of the Indians. A symbol is an object, a sign, a design or a picture which is used to represent an abstract idea, quality or process. By joining an abstract idea to a visible sign, it is able to evoke the idea by suggestion or association. Its purpose, therefore, has always been to simplify a concept for the sake of speed, emphasis or safety, or to overcome a language barrier. The symbol is an aid in making an idea comprehensible. In addition, it has the power to impress the subconscious mind, which records in symbols and responds to symbols. Symbols are, in all probability, man's oldest means of communication. They comprise a kind of universal language which grew out of a need to express spiritual truths and abstract concepts in a material form for teaching and preservation. The ancient and inborn tendency to use form, shape, pattern and words to suggest or evoke a deeper meaning has been proven by archaeological finds all over the world. This has resulted in the accumulation of many categories of symbols, all of which have for eons preserved cosmic truths. Generally speaking, there are three kinds of symbols: conventional, personal, and universal. The conventional symbol is one which is commonly accepted and shared by a large group of people. The meaning agreed upon has no intrinsic relationship with the idea symbolized. In this category are signs used in mathematics, physics, and industry. The personal symbol is individual, and the image springs from transitory and emotional conditions. It cannot be shared unless all the events and subjective associations that made it a symbol are recounted. Personal symbols are predominant in dreams. The universal symbol is the only one in which there exists an intrinsic relationship between the symbol and what it represents. This symbol is a precise expression, and its essence is its ability to express simultaneously various aspects of the idea it represents. In his book The Hungry Eye, Dr. Raymond Piper divides symbols into three classes. He, however, labels them substitutive, representational, and functional. The substitutive symbol is one which shows no resemblance between the sign and the meaning. It therefore requires verbal interpretation. The representational symbol is one which displays similarities of patterns between the sign and the object. The functional symbol is one in which the physical form directly suggests or evokes meaning. It may or may not incorporate patterns from natural objects and needs little or no verbal interpretation. In Dr. Piper's discussion of the functional symbol, we find a certain suggestion of correlation with what has been written by Jung, Fromm, and others about the universal symbol. Functional symbols awaken the self to the feeling or value import of invisible realities, and often also of visible ones. They turn attention from things to selves, from matter to spirit. Whichever way one chooses to divide them, three classes of symbols appear in the Edgar Cayce Aura Chart and Life CO readings. We will look at them more closely in chapters 3 and 4. Our concern here is to look at universal symbols, because these were used to express and teach universal truths about the nature of man and his relationship to his Creator. It has been said that the language of the universal symbol is the one common tongue developed by the human race, a language which it forgot before it succeeded in developing a universal conventional language. G. A. Gaskell, in the preface to his Dictionary of All Scriptures and Myths, says that there is a metaphorical language underlying all the sacred scriptures of the world. He sees in this sacred language the one and only instance where supernatural intrusion into mundane affairs is clearly cognizable. For a universal language such as this could not be invented and applied by man. It is possible for the scriptures literally to be the work of man, but it is impossible for their worldwide undermeaning to be other than superhuman and transcendental. It matters nothing however grotesque the wording of scriptures may be. It is the symbolism alone which is precious, and worthy of our best efforts to elucidate. This dictionary is a scholarly work of monumental proportions. In it Gaskell has reduced the main religions of the world to their symbolism and has found them the same, teaching identical truths of the nature of man and of the soul process. Here we find a demonstration of the Lord thy God is one. The nature of man and the soul process receive much attention in the Edgar Cayce readings. What those readings have to say is the same as the story that unfolds in the undermeanings of the universal symbols. Both reiterate and reinforce the story of creation outlined in Genesis. In the beginning man was created in the image of God, meaning created as spirit, for God is spirit. Intended to be a companion and co-creator with the Father, he was given free will, for without it he could not be a companion, but only a puppet, a robot. The readings go on to explain that by his own will man misused his creative ability and separated himself from the Father. The separation, however, is but an illusion, for the divine spirit of man is ever a part of that which created it. When souls dabbled with creation, they began to identify with what they had created, as they still do. Thus they became entangled in the material plane and grew confused about their own identities. They fell under the delusion that their finite minds are the ultimate creative agents, and that the manifested world is reality. The parable of the prodigal son is an illustration of the plight of souls caught in the material plane. The son took his inheritance, his birthright, his free will, and traveled into a far country, away from the source. Finally, when the inheritance had been squandered, when he had become tired of living among the pigs, he decided to go home. When souls finally tire of being tied to materiality, they need only make a decision to return to the Father, and the Father comes to meet them. The illusory barrier we have created is the conscious mind, and with this small area of mind we identify and project outward. The readings describe man and the earth as body, mind, and soul, a physical, mental, and spiritual being. The mind, which is called the builder, is explained as being composed of conscious, subconscious, and superconscious parts. The last, superconscious, is a part of the creative mind, God, and the first, conscious, was created by us for our own diversion. The area between these two, the subconscious mind, acts as a storehouse for impressions, emotions, memories, and control of automatic body functions. Stored here are the soul's records, good and bad. The subconscious becomes the mind of the soul after death, and for this reason it is important to be cognizant of the emotions we store and the thoughts we dwell on. However important it is to realize that our separation from the Creator is only in our consciousness. It is equally important to realize that the secret place of the Most High is also within our consciousness. We have access to the Father when we can pierce the curtains of self-consciousness and experience our oneness in the superconscious. We can do this in meditation and often in sleep, in dreams. The real self is the divine creative spirit in man, hidden in the last place man thinks of looking, within his own consciousness. The pilgrim, the wanderer, and the hero beset by trials and monsters are all symbols of the divine spirit caught in the illusions of the material plane. The real self is the Son of God, and to come into his kingdom he must not only recognize this reality, he must use his will to make his mind one with the Father's. The truth of the brotherhood of man and the fatherhood of God has been preserved in the undermeanings of the scriptures, myths, rituals, and symbols of all the religions of the world, as well as in a wide variety of symbolic traditions or disciplines, including the Kabbalah, Freemasonry, astrology, the tarot, and medieval alchemy, to name a very few. Ideas of infinity, of God, and of the cosmos can only be expressed symbolically, that is, in terms of the finite. The reality of the self and its relationship to its creator, the process of separation and the process of reunion are expressed in symbols which focus the conscious mind, impress the subconscious mind, and point them upward. A symbol makes understanding possible by means of comparison. The universal symbol has been the repository of truth about the reality of the self. Each symbol in this category is highly evocative and has many levels of significance. New insights into meaning do not invalidate the old, but they do add other levels to our understanding. The true meaning of the symbol is communicated at a level deeper than that of the intellect. Symbolism is, in fact, the language of the unconscious mind. While the subconscious mind is busily recording impersonal and conventional symbols, at its deepest level it can also respond to and feed back universal symbols. Symbols can serve as reminders, to our conscious minds and to our unconscious minds, of who we are and why we are here. They can serve as focusing points, but their danger has ever been present and must ever be acknowledged. The danger is in the fallible mind of man, which may gradually come to venerate and worship symbols rather than that for which they stand. Worship not the light of the candle, rather that to which it may guide thee in thy service. So, whether from the vibrations of numbers, of metals, of stones, these are merely to become the necessary influences to make thee in attune, one with the creative forces. Just as the pitch of a song of praise is not the song nor the message therein, but is a helpmeet for those who would find strength in the service of the Lord. So use them to attune self. For they are but servants of the Lord and Master of all, even as thou. In addition to the danger of venerating symbols, there is the danger of confusion of interpretation. The fact that allegories are taken for history, and symbols for reality, has caused some ludicrous misconceptions and great divisions in the religions of the world. G. A. Gaskell, in his Dictionary of All Scriptures and Myths, says that in popular religions we find an inconsistent mixture of two different modes of scriptural interpretation. One spiritual and the other material, historical, with the inevitable result of interminable disputations over opinions, and the formulation of incoherent pronouncements which are the laughing-stock of skeptics. Popular religions partially teach truth, and every religion is vindicated by the truths it has derived from the Spirit, while every religion is condemned by the superstitions it has imposed upon belief through having mistaken the dead letter of the word for the living idea signified by it. That is why, though the truth is in us and around us, we can think of man's fall as being tied up with a woman and an apple, and why we can look around us at other cultures and other religions and, not understanding their symbols, feel that those who are different worship false gods. In this way lies the danger of symbolism, not in the symbols themselves but in the understanding of men.